Are you sick of all the decks in the meta right now? Do you hate playing against Blue Purple Luffy? Or maybe Mihawk? Maybe your locals is full of Ace and Emu and it feels like it's still the fucking OP13 format. Well, I've got a deck list for you. My name is the King of Top Decks, and today I'll be presenting to you my favorite leader, Black Yellow Koala. I've been playing this since it came out in OP12, and this has been by far one of my most favorite leaders of all time. It's a great leader. I think she's phenomenal. It's an amazing leader to even go into a brand new format for, and I'll explain why in this breakdown. But before we get into that, please do me a favor. Please like, comment, and subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. I am getting this YouTube channel started, and I do want to continue bringing out some more deck lists for you guys of all the different kinds of off-meta decks that I play. But without further ado, let's get into the deck profile. So we'll start off here with the breakdown of the leader. What does Koala do? So Koala's effect is when this leader attacks your opponent's leader, has to be their leader specifically. If you have 2 or more characters with a cost of 8 or more, you can draw a card. That first effect, that's not going to be a problem to get going. The second effect is what really makes her good. The second effect, this can be activated when your opponent plays a character with a base cost of 8 or more, or when your opponent plays a character using a character's effect. Your opponent adds 1 card from the top of their life to their hand. What Koala effectively does is she punishes people for playing big dudes. When Luffy decides to play out Sanji or Mihawk, he's going to be taking a life for it. If he wants to play out the 8 cost Roger, he's going to take a life for it. If your opponent is Mihawk and they want to play out the 9 cost Mihawk, they're also going to be taking a life for it. No matter what, you will be punishing your opponents. Even if you're playing against Law and they decide to play out a dude with the kid blocker, well, they're also going to be taking a life. There's a lot of different applications where Koala's effect can actually kick in, and you'll be genuinely surprised when you see it happen, but just make sure you don't forget it. After all, that is what the whole leader's effect is. This also is optional. So if you are playing against someone who you are pretty confident like Ace, who probably has Goldie Roger, maybe you might not want them to take that last life, otherwise, well, you'll be in some hot waters. But let's go ahead and start breaking down the actual rest of the deck here. So who are we going to have supporting our great Revolutionary Army leader? Well, we'll be starting off here with none other than Koala herself. She's going to be spearheading a lot of the operations here, at least when it comes to our early game. So what our 1 cost Koala does is it's a 1 cost 2k power, 1k counter, and it has on play. You can reveal top 3 cards of your deck, and you can add either 1 Revolutionary Armor type other than Koala, or up to 1 Nico Robin. Then you can add it to your hand and trash the rest. This is great for our early game. It helps shore up, it helps our consistency a ton, helps us find everything that we need in order to kind of get the ball rolling, while also filling up our trash. This is a phenomenal 4 of. It is completely mandatory to play as a 4 of. Up next, we've got we're just gonna go straight into our 4 costs. So next up, we're gonna have Hack, 4 copies of Hack. You can potentially play around with the ratios for some of these. These are the ratios that I have found work the best for me. I think Hack is the best at 4. I have seen some people playing it at 3. So what Hack does is if your leader is a Rebel Army type, he gets +4 cost and blocker. And on top of that, he has on KO. You can KO one of your opponent's characters with a base cost of 4 or less. That base cost is actually extremely important because let's say you're playing up against someone like, I don't know, Sabo. You know that they're going to have that 4 cost blocker. You can actually play him down if you're going second. If they decide to swing into you, you can block it with Hack, and then you can pop their blocker Sabo, and that can stop them from keeping their advantage, and then they also lose that 1k across the board. It's extremely handy. There's not a whole lot of decks in the format that actually are manipulating their costs, but the fact that it still calls out base cost is quite helpful if you do end up going against a lot of Revolutionary Army type decks. So Hack is a great 4 of. This is what I would recommend for it. Up next, we've got, this is not a Revolutionary Army, but I feel like if you're playing yellow deck, this is extremely good for you, especially if you don't do too well into aggro matchups like Koala does. I've got 4 copies of Kozuki Hiyori. This is a 4 cost 0 power, 1k counter. It has blocker, and it has on KO. You can trash 1 card from your hand, and if your leader is multicolored, you can add 1 card from the top of your deck to your life. So effectively, this is great for us. It can help shore up that aggro matchup that we have. As I mentioned, we aren't necessarily doing the best when it comes to the aggro matchups. We can fall behind very fast, and this can kind of help keep that tempo in our favor. You can slam her down on your turn 2 play for 4 Dawn. You can slam her down, you've got a blocker set up and ready to go. And then if they start swinging at you, you block her, you stop 1 attack, you heal 1, and now you've effectively stopped a 2nd attack. All for 4 Dawn. This card is insanely stupid, it's busted. I'm surprised more people aren't playing it in their yellow decks, but I mean, if anything, maybe it's a good thing that more people aren't playing this in their yellow decks. I like this at 4. You can play with this potentially at 3 or even 2 if you should so feel. Now, going back on theme with our Revolutionary Army types, this is a special little bit of tech that I put in here in order to help us with that growing first matchup. I found that a lot of times most of the decks in the format want to go second, and we have a horrible curve going first. So this kind of helps shore that up a little bit, and it is our 5 cost Karasu. What this is 6k power, 1k counter. If your leader has a Revolutionary Army type, he gets +3 cost, making him effectively an 8 cost. Him alongside of your hack can very easily turn on your leader's effect just by existing on the field. So these are great to have. What he also does is when attacking, if your opponent has 5 or more cards in their hand, your opponent trashes 1 card from your hand. One good thing about this is that this happens before they have to commit to countering. So let's say your opponent has 5 cards in hand. You know, they're sitting there, they've been hoarding up a couple of cards, and they did a little bit of searching, they got 5 cards in hand. You slam down Karasu, the next turn you swing, they have 5 cards in hand, they have to discard 1, go into 4. Let's say that they decide to take the life, well, they decide to take a life, they're going back to 5 cards, which can then play right into our hands because we're also playing 4 copies of Nico Robin. If you've been playing against any of the Revolutionary Army type decks, you are probably very familiar with what this card does, and you probably dread it when you get to that, when you see them tapping that 6 Dawn. For 6 Dawn and 7k power, Nico Robin has blocker and +3 cost if your leader is Koala or Monkey D. Luffy, which of course we are. On top of that, her on play is you can trash 1 card from your hand. If your opponent has 5 or more cards in their hand, your opponent trashes 2 cards from their hand. This is very good. I'll talk about how we'll talk some more about how the combos kind of work with this deck, but this right here is a very, very, very powerful combo when you are going first that can help keep the tempo in your favor, and it is insanely strong. That combo alone has won me multiple games just because I've kept on consistently keeping cards out of my opponent's hands, and I cannot emphasize enough how much card advantage is important when it comes to this game. So this I have at 4. You can potentially play around with this at 3 if you feel like it's getting a little bit too bricky. I honestly don't mind it because since she can pitch 1 for cost, we have some other cards that can discard themselves, like for Hiyori, you can pitch the Robin that you have in hand if you have 2 or 3 in hand. You know, it's not too bad to unbrick this out of your hands, and you're drawing so much with your leader effect if you're playing this properly. So this is a great card at 4. I've liked it at 4, keeps the consistency going, but you can always play it at 3 if you would prefer. But I would not recommend anything less than 3. Now, speaking of our trashing, in order to get some good effects, if you've been playing around and you've been seeing some of the trends going on with yellow decks, you're very familiar with this card, but hey, all the other decks are posers. This card was meant specifically and built for Koala. So if anyone's gonna be playing him, you're damn right it better fucking be us. We've got 4 copies of Kuma. Kuma is a 6 cost, 7k power, and this says on play you can trash 1 card from your hand, add 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life, then this character gets +2 cost until the end of your opponent's next end phase. The very important thing about that is that because it is getting the +2 cost, it specifically calls out to the end of your opponent's next end phase. So let's say you have your Nico Robin and you have a Kuma out at once. By the time your next turn comes around, this will no longer be considered an 8 cost for your leader's effect. So you will have to play out something else if you want to keep that card draw going. So you have to make sure that you keep that in mind when you are playing with the Kuma in this deck. Another thing as well, is on your opponent's turn, if this gets KO'd, whether it be by battle or by card effect, you can add one card from the top of your deck to the top of your life. So this and the Hiyori help you really stabilize in games where you feel like you're falling behind, where you feel like you just need to get a little bit more tempo in your favor. You can slam these guys down, get some healing going, and it makes you feel much better. While on top of that, he's a little bit of a beefy boy. Like 7k is nothing to slouch at, especially for 6 Dawn. So he's going to be one of your key parts of the army, and because of the fact that he also has 1k counter, you can also pitch him very aggressively for counter in order to get out of stuff, rather than playing him out when you get to that 6 Dawn if you have, say, him and Nico Robin. So you can even pitch him for off of Nico Robin's effect. There's a lot of different things that you can do between these 2 cards, and these interactions are going to be key for you to do well with this deck. Now, before we get on to the big boss monster of the deck, I do want to talk about a little bit of a tech piece that I've been playing around with recently. I feel pretty happy with this, but I'm talking about none other than our 6-cost yellow Rayleigh. This is a 6k power, 1k counter. On play, if your leader is multicolored and your opponent has 3 or less life, KO one of your opponent's characters with a 7k base power or less. With a trigger, activate this card's on play effect. This is insanely good against any aggro matchup. If they're trying to rush you down, they're trying to go for game, and you hit this off your life, feels so good. It's an incredibly powerful effect, especially because of the fact it's calling out base cost, which can, or as talking about base power, which can get around a lot of different things, because a lot of cards recently in the format are starting to get really, really beefy. They're starting to get kind of high, getting higher in cost. Before, base cost of 4 or less used to be kind of around where we were seeing a lot of, seeing the threshold for a couple of things sitting at. Now we're starting to see some more characters that are getting a little bit more powerful at those 5 and 6 costs. And what's really good about this is that this pops a lot of things. Let's say you are playing against someone like Sabo, for example. He's going to be buffing his entire board by 1000 power. But with this, because it calls out base power, you can actually get around a lot of those different interactions. So this has been very helpful for me. I found it to be great at a 2 of. You could potentially remove this or change this out with something else, just depending on how you feel and how you want to play the deck. I tend to play a little bit more aggressively, so this has been great for kind of shoring up my defenses. So I've been playing this as a 3 of. Now on to the big boss monster himself. Who else is better to lead the Rebel army than none other than Monkey D. Dragon? This is an 8 cost, 8k power. On play, you may place 3 Revolutionary Army type cards from your trash at the bottom of your deck in any order. If your leader has the Revolutionary Army type, you can play up to 1 character with a cost of 6 or less from your trash. Keep in mind, it says any character with 6 cost or less from your trash. That means if we wanted to, we could play literally anything from this entire stack here. We could play anyone we wanted. I mean, if you are desperate for some searchers, you can bring out your Koala. You can play out a Hax, that way you can block and pop. You can bring out your Hiyori, so you can block and heal. You have so many different options at your disposal, and that's one of the things that I think makes this deck so good, especially going into a brand new format, because it's a very toolboxy deck. You stick all the good stuff that you want in this deck, and it will help you get stuff going, and Dragon himself will lead the army to victory by just dredging up whatever you need from your trash and making the best out of it. It really does a great job of keeping the deck going. He's also quite strong at 8k power, which can help you a lot when you're trying to go for game. This is overall your best, strongest card in the deck, and this has to be a mandatory 4 of. I cannot stress enough just how incredible Dragon is in this deck. Up next, we've got just one more tech piece before we start getting onto some of our 2Ks. So if you are playing black, you're probably familiar with Stussy. Stussy is a 9 cost, 9k power with no counter, and it's on play. You can trash 1 card for one of your characters, KO up to one of your opponent's characters. This is very good, especially for matchups like, let's say, the Newgate or the Ace when they have the Newgate blocker out. This just helps you deal with a lot of the bigger cards in the meta, even like the Secret Mihawk, because as you've noticed, a lot of our cards are kind of hovering around that 8k, 7k, 6k range. So we have not Weenie Hut Juniors, but we've definitely got a couple of medium-sized dudes, and what Stussy helps us do is it helps us shore up another one of our defenses, because as a very mid-range deck, we're not going balls to the wall trying to get the biggest dudes out there, but we're also not flooding the board with Winnie Hut Juniors like Boa and Law. What we're trying to do is we're trying to just keep the tempo going in our favor, remove things when we're ready, and punch in the face when we're ready to go. And Stussy helps us out with that, because we can get rid of those nuisance blockers, we can get rid of those gigantic attackers that can be coming straight at us in the next turn. And on top of that, it's a pretty good card to be playing when you are going first and you do hit that 9 Dawn turn. So this is going to be a fantastic card. I've been playing this at 2. Sometimes I feel like I want it at 3. You can kind of play around with it at 2 or 3. Sometimes 3 feels a bit bricky, 2 feels like it's pretty good, but sometimes you don't always see it. It's just a little bit hit or miss, but so far I've been having some pretty good success with it at 2, and that's how I'm keeping it for now. All right, now on to the 2Ks. So if you are playing yellow and you are multicolored, you cannot go wrong with playing Baby 5. Baby 5 is just a phenomenal 2K counter, because if your leader is multicolored, it has a trigger that you can draw 2 cards. This is really good. In the early game, I tend to take my life pretty aggressively, so if I'm getting smacked at, I'll usually take my first life, and if I get this trigger, I'm taking that draw 2 every day. That just helps you go net 1 in card advantage, gets you some extra cardboard, lets you see some more things, lets you dig deeper into the deck, find the resources that you're going to need for whatever matchup you're up against. If you're going against Ace, you're going to want to be searching for those Stussies, because you know he will be dropping down that new game. Helps you also find those dragons, Rayleighs, anything that you can need, anything that you want. Drawing is always going to be good for you, and that's why I really like having this trigger in the deck. But worst case scenario, we can pay 4 Dawn, play it out for 5K. I've never had to do it, so the 2K is always going to be invaluable for me. Up next, we have, so I'm playing 5 more 2Ks. You can play around with these ratios a little bit more, however you prefer, but I am playing 3 copies of the 4K Morley, or the 4-cost Morley, and then I am playing 2 copies of the 4-cost Kumas. So the reason why I'm playing a little bit of a different ratio for these is because I don't necessarily care too much about the trigger for the Kuma. The Kuma's trigger is if you and your opponent have less than 5 life, you can play this card. I don't really like this so much because it never really comes up very often for me, because typically when nowadays, especially with the current formats, when you are trying to go for game, getting that 1 extra 5K swing isn't really as valuable, especially because most of the popular leaders are finding ways to buff themselves up above that 5K mark. Like, you already have to swing past 6K just to get through Ace and Blue Purple Luffy. So in those matchups, this is an incredibly dead card that you don't ever want to play. But sometimes if you're going up against something like Boa, for example, this could actually end up being somewhat useful, especially if you're not getting the draws that you need and you just desperately need a body on board. Hey, hit this from life, trigger, play them out. You got a 5K swing coming at them the next turn. So it can work out, but I much prefer playing it as a 2K, but it's got at least a little bit of a niche situation. And the Morley, I feel like, is much better in the deck specifically, just because of the fact that he has a passive effect to give him +4 cost. So with this, if you are desperate on your 4 Dawn turn and you have nothing else you can play, you can slap down a Morley. It feels bad, but hey, at least you're keeping your leader going and it's something getting you towards your game plan. Up next, we're gonna get through a couple of our events here. So starting it off, I've got 4 copies of Captains Assembled. I've seen some people playing it at 4, some people at 3. I prefer playing it at 4. I think it's just better to increase your consistency. I'm a very big fan of keeping things consistent, so this has been working great for me. What Captains Assembled does is you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, you reveal a Revel Army card other than Captains Assembled, and you can add it to your hand and trash the rest. And then trigger, activate the card's main effect. This is pretty good because you can actually add this off of Koala's effect when you're going second. You can play it on Koala, you can add this, and then you trash the other 2 cards that you revealed. You can play this then, reveal 3 more cards, grab 1, and then trash the rest. So it's really good because playing both of these at the same time can help you immediately fill up your trash with some Revel Army cards per dragon, but also helps you with finding some stuff that you need, whether if you want more 2Ks in hand, or if you want to try to get some, if you want to get to the Robin or the Kuma or whatever it is you're looking for. So this is really good, and when you hit this off a trigger, feels even better because, hey, you just got a free search for a 2K, maybe. Next, I have 3 copies of Hair Removal Fist. Some people play this at 4. I think 4 is honestly a little bit of a throw. You probably shouldn't be playing this at 4 because what this does is it's a 1-cost 4K counter essentially, but it is conditional. It gives you 2K counter first, but then if you have a Revel Army type character with the cost of 8 or more, then you gain an additional 2K. So if you actually only have Stussy out, you only get 2K with this. So it's important to keep that in mind. It does also have a trigger to draw 1, trash 1, but you probably don't really care too much about that unless you have No Dawn open, and you won't really get much benefit off of playing this. But it is a very good defensive tool. Having that 4K counter for 1 cost is very, very strong. It's incredibly powerful because, like I mentioned, we can feel a little bit weak on the defenses at times if we're not doing enough to keep the tempo in our favor. This is going to be very good for us, but playing it at 4 definitely feels not that good because, and I'll dig a little bit more into it when I kind of go over how to play the deck and give some tips about how to play it, and you'll kind of understand a little bit why maybe playing this at 3 or maybe even 2 is probably the more ideal ratio. But on top of that, the reason why I am playing at 3 rather than 4 is because I'm also playing 2 copies of Ground Death. You can't play black without playing Ground Death. This is just such an incredibly strong card. It's a very good tool piece that we got in OP14. This is a 1-cost with 2 different kinds. It's a 1-cost event with 2 different kinds of effects. For 2 extra Dawn, you can negate the effect of up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less during this turn. This is great for turning off blockers when you're trying to go for game. You can turn off those pesky Marcos. You can turn off those pesky on KO effects from the Peronas and the Thriller Bark package. You can use this to get around a lot of different things, and it's very, very strong. It also has 4K counter if you have 10 or more cards in your trash, which usually we will be able to achieve. This is just a very good card, very solid overall, and I've been quite enjoying this, and that's why I've been playing this at least 2 copies in the deck. And that is it. That is the entirety of the deck list. Now for a couple of tips on how to play this deck. There's just a couple of things that you want to keep in mind. So obviously, as you kind of saw, the game plan is we want to go second. All of Koala's best curve revolves around the even curve. You have a lot of characters that want to be played out on your 4, 6, and 8 Dawn turns. And so because of that, you want to try to go second every time that you get this deck. If you're playing against Koala, take second away from them, and it's gonna make them cry. So when you are going second, your general game plan is basically gonna be, you're gonna be looking for your Koalas or your Captains Assembled to start. You're gonna start playing them out, do a little bit of searching, try to find your next piece that you want. Ideally, you're gonna wanna look for your hack. You'll play out hack, you've got an 8 cost on board now. Then your next turn after that, you wanna play out either your Robins or your Kumas. This is where it gets a little bit situational. If you need some more, if you're kind of getting run down a little bit and you're already down to like 2 life, since we are a 4 life leader, Kuma could be pretty good to kind of help you stabilize a little bit, kind of get yourself a little bit of extra healing. But sometimes if your opponent's got way too many fucking cards in their hands and they're just hoarding it up like a greedy freaking goblin, the Robin will be incredible to help you out with that. And then once you get to that 8 Dawn turn, you want to slam down that dragon as hard as you fucking can. One cool thing that you can probably keep in mind as well, when you are deciding before the 8 Dawn turn about wanting to, whether or not you should block with your Robin or even your hacks, what you can actually do is you can potentially try to counter out of a couple of things, you know, maybe pitch a Kuma or do what you have to do as you're trying to defend from your opponent's attacks. But then at the end you can decide, hey, you know what, I'll go ahead and let my Robin go to the trash. Then the next turn, you play out Dragon, and you can just immediately play out your Robin, and then you get the Robin's on play effect, pitch one, start doing some shenaniganry. So there's a lot of different ways that you can play the deck. There's a lot of different cool things that you can do with the deck, and the more practice you get with it, you'll kind of start to see all the different things that you can do, and it's very, very great going second. That's actually the reason why I mentioned that I'm not a big fan of playing too many of these counter events, because while they are incredibly good and you do want to have them, you also don't want to have them too many times, because in your ideal curve, you're not gonna have any Dawn left over to even play it. You don't have anything that resends your Dawn, you don't have anything that helps you in that situation, so you're kind of SOL when you have this and it's like, oh, it's 8 Dawn, do I want to keep 1 Dawn open so I can play a counter event, or do I want to slam down the fucking dragon? You're gonna slam down your fucking dragon every fucking time. So that's just something to keep in mind. Going first, it's kind of the same game plan. The only real difference is that everything's gonna be delayed by about a turn. So turn 1, you'll play out your Koala. Turn 2, you kind of have 2 different choices if you're playing against a 5k leader. Maybe you want to commit your 3 Dawn and commit it to your Koala attacker, so you can swing 5k and then 5k, so you can have 2 swings. Or if you are attacking a 6k base leader like Luffy or Ace, you could potentially just stack all of it onto your leader and just swing for 8 at life. That'll at least guarantee that you'll be taking 2 cards out of their hand and potentially 2 2Ks, or that they'll be taking a life off the rip. So that can kind of help keep things a little bit in your favor. And then turn 3, when you do have your 5 Dawn, you have a little bit of a choice of if you want to play your hack or if you want to play your Karasu. I would definitely recommend you play Karasu if you have him. Like I said, it is just an incredibly good card when you're going first, so you can keep controlling your opponent's hand because they did get the extra draw and you didn't. So this can be incredibly helpful to help you regain some more of that tempo back in your favor. Because in the next turn, you'll slam down your Robin, you'll negate their hand size even more, or you'll play out your Kuma, you'll get some healing, you'll kind of keep things going in your favor. And then of course, after that, you'll play out Dragon and kind of just rinse and repeat and try to look for the opportunity to close out the game. So that's pretty much the main game plan for the deck, and that's the main way that you'll be wanting to play the deck and how you can potentially counter it if you've been wondering how to counter it. Just a couple of tips to keep in mind for Koala. So the main strategy that I would recommend is make sure you don't counter out of everything. Like I said, I tend to play a little bit more aggressively. I like to go more towards face, but as a result, sometimes people will probably do the same towards me. Try your best to maybe focus a little bit on keeping your characters alive, as they are the main core part of your draw engine. You can afford to take a little bit of your life, especially because we have so many ways of healing in the deck. Against the late game decks like Blue Purple Luffy, Boa, Mihawk, you definitely need to take that early life. Like I said, we have plenty of ways to heal, and they also don't want to get punished by our leader effect. And one thing you're going to notice is a lot of people are going to be playing around that. You'll see Blue Purple Luffy or even Mihawk, Boa, Ace, everyone's going to be kind of changing up the strategy just a little bit to play around Koala's effect of making them take a life. So you'll have to keep that in mind, and that'll help you know whether you should start pressing the gas or if you got to turtle up for a second. And then the last thing that you should also remember as well is that Koala doesn't actually need to win the attack in order to draw. So when you are trying to get your draw effect by attacking your opponent's leader, let's say you're attacking Blue Purple Luffy, when you swing at them, you can just have 2 8 costs on the field, and you can still swing 5 at their lead just so you can get that 1 extra draw. And you can do that before you even commit any Dawn to any plays, which can be incredibly helpful. It can be incredibly good for you. If you're at your 10 Dawn turn, maybe you can stick 1 Dawn on just to make sure you can at least get some counter out of their hands, and then you can figure out what you want to do for your next play from there. So that is the main gist of Koala. One thing you'll have to remember is that Koala really rewards sequencing, patience, and pressure. If you want to punish greed in this format, then this is definitely the leader for you. So thank you for watching this video, and if you stayed until the end, I appreciate you all. If you enjoyed the video breakdown, as I mentioned before, please like, comment, and subscribe. And remember that every draw counts. So aim to be the king of top decks. Signing out.